Welcome to the Bald Brad Show. Our lead story of the day, surprisingly, comes from CNN, who is reporting on the crime that is running rampant in Democrat-ran cities such as San Francisco, where CNN rolls up and in just 30 minutes, they catch a drugstore being robbed 3 times. This clip is wild. Hit that like and subscribe button. If you haven't already, leave us a comment down below. Let's go ahead and roll it.
San Francisco businesses fed up with crime. One sandwich shop owner is calling for action after he says he was attacked outside his store. He says he yelled at a man to stop urinating on his trash can and then was sucker punched. His Instagram post about the incident has now gone viral.
I'm fed up with this goddamn city. It's like, I can't just be outside and just running a business without getting punched in the goddamn face. It shouldn't be this way at all. Like, this isn't how our city should be.
Now, it's not clear what was said before the altercation or whether there's even video of it, but San Francisco police have said they are investigating. It comes as some stores are locking up everything from coffee to frozen food to try to combat theft. Our Kyung Law visited one Walgreens that's hit by shoplifters more than a dozen times a day. It happened 3 times while she was inside.
Richie Greenberg walked into a San Francisco Walgreens when he saw in the frozen food section this.
Chains, heavy chains that went from padlock to padlock on both sides of the doors, and this was bizarre, something I'd never seen before. This is just more icing on the cake, telling us that rampant crime has become a regular part of life.
So typical that in the 30 minutes we were at this Walgreens, we watched 3 people, including this man, steal.
Did that guy pay? Did that guy pay? He didn't pay.
Walgreens says this Richmond neighborhood store with aisles of products like mustard locked behind plexiglass has the highest theft rate of all their nearly 9,000 U.S. stores, hit more than a dozen times a day. When thieves turned to cleaning out ice cream and frozen burritos, workers grew so frustrated they resorted to the chains. They were ordered down by corporate because of the negative messaging. But Walgreens isn't the only retailer impacted in San Francisco.
You have to ask an employee for help.
At this store, frozen food is controlled with a cable lock. Fake eyelashes locked behind plexiglass, along with lotion and nail polish. At another grocery store, $14 bags of coffee under lock and key.
What is this?
I don't know. I don't understand why coffee. I don't know.
Here she is.
But
Oh.
it's become kind of
Is anybody else catching the flags in the back?
like a police state in San Francisco.
Did this guy just say San Francisco has become a police state?
It's become kind of like a police state in San Francisco. I don't know.
What? Wouldn't all this crime in some way, shape, or form correlate to a lack of police? That's why crime is running rampant. I mean, it's kind of the opposite of a police state, right? You're just allowing all this crime to happen everywhere.
How else to describe it?
It's not part of city life. It's not part of the way people should be living, right? And that includes folks who are committing the crimes.
Marjan Philauer, mom of 3, small business and community advocate, says these visible problems in her city are leading to renewed activism driven by residents, like the recall of the city's district attorney last year.
I think what we've seen, especially in the past couple of years, is less tolerance, more exasperation, and more movement to action by everyday San Franciscans to change how their city is run. It's not enough right now, but there is a change, and I think ultimately we will get there.
San Francisco City Supervisor Matt Dorsey, former police spokesman and recovering drug addict, sees the rampant shoplifting as a systemic problem, from city leaders to an understaffed police force to the fentanyl crisis.
When you're seeing that level of retail theft, that tends to be subsistence level retail theft.
People who are hungry.
People are hungry. There is a level of
Folks, can we just stop with this? Again, some people are hungry, right? And there is a heart of empathy that's happening here. But there's a saying that empathy in politics is harmful. The Democrats have instituted policies out of the heart of empathy for those that are committing crimes or those that are saying, are drug addicts, alcoholics, had a rough life, are having a rough life now. Everybody wants to help these people. They're Americans. And you might be going, well, Brad, why are you not losing your crap over this? I want to change the tone of the show. And the show, if you look at my old videos, like the first videos that were ever uploaded, I wasn't very animated, and I kind of just talked normally like I would to like an average Joe. And one of the reasons why I started being more animated and kind of having more entertainment and the liveliness of it all was because somebody commented saying, hey, you're too dull. There's not much happening. Your face is boring pretty much or whatever. But the original tone of the show is to have a conversation about what's being implemented. Like what the heck is going on here? So you're not going to see so much of me yelling into the mic anymore or that animatedness and all those other things. And there's more reasons to why I'm doing that we'll have to speak about later. But the Democrats come out of a heart of empathy. I don't agree with it. Again, empathy in politics is harmful. But to sit there and say, oh, you know what? They're stealing these things because they're hungry. Yes, in some cases that is true. Why are they stealing eyelashes? Why are they stealing lip balm? Why are they stealing lipstick? Like, why are they stealing Louis Vuitton bags and all these things? One of the reasons that we've heard from the left side of the aisle is they say, oh, well, this is a form of reparations. Well, reparations for whom? Because it's not just blacks. There's other people that are stealing stuff too. So what is the other sides of the excuse? Is that reparations too? Because some white people were enslaved as well. I'm just raising what the left have said. But this is wild that they're going to continue to push this type of stuff and peddle it. And you know what? Let me bring this up too. And I haven't shown this yet. We've talked a lot about this poop app that are in the state of California. Those are an audio to kind of bring out what the heck we're looking at here. We're looking at the city of San Francisco in a broad view, kind of like you would look on Google Maps. We're looking from the top down. And if you go on Google Maps, you know how you can like pin where you parked your car and it leaves kind of a bubble? Well, there are thousands and thousands of these pins that are brown showing markers of where there's feces, where people have defecated on the streets of San Francisco. And it's so bad that some places are actually painted black. There's so many pins in that area, it's black. I mean, you cannot see the city. And I'm not exaggerating this. If you're on audio, I highly recommend you just come over to YouTube real quick or Rumble. Because this is wild. I've talked a lot about this app that they have in California where if you see feces on the ground, you can actually pin it. So it's not just crime. It's not just all these things. And he's talking about fentanyl and drug use. Folks, the fentanyl is coming through the southern border. The southern border, the increase in fentanyl pouring across is directly linked to Joe Biden and him not wanting to solve the border crisis. And the parts that he did solve, it wasn't really him solving it. He was just instituting Trump-era policies that helped solve, I'm going to put that in air quotes, solve some of the issue at the southern border. But all this is created by Democrats. None of this is created by Republicans. What I would have loved to see this reporter do is just ask everybody that she just interviewed, who did you vote for? It's a simple question. Who did you vote for? Because yes, we can blame all these politicians all we want, but this has been going on for years and years. This has been going on for almost 8-10 years, something like that. This isn't anything new. So one, it's a Democrat-ran area and has been for quite some time. You can't blame it on Trump, even though they try to do it. And let's put Trump aside. Let's just say on a federal level, you vote at the top of the ticket, you vote for Joe Biden or whoever. You're a Democrat. Why? Why would you continue to vote Democrat when this is happening in your area? That's when the most effect happens to you, not on a federal level or even as much as even on a state level. As much as the local level is the one that impacts you the most. So I don't understand it. Is anybody in the live chat can sit here and kind of explain this to me? Because I just can't wrap my head around it. And you have people being interviewed of like, oh, well, this isn't how our city should be ran. Yes, but this has been going on again. And you have that other lady going, oh, well, we've been solving the issue for the last 2 years. No, you haven't, because it's actually gotten worse in the last 2 years. That's why you're seeing Nordstrom's leave, Starbucks leave, REI spent like $800,000 on security and it still wasn't good enough. So now they're leaving. You have entire malls in San Francisco leaving as well. I literally can't fathom and I can't wrap my head around this whole idea of just continually voting Democrat because you see the letter D on the ticket. If this was in a Republican area, you guys, and I continually see the same thing happening over and over again from Republicans, I'm probably going to vote independent or Democrat just to take a gamble and see what would happen. Could it get worse? Potentially. Would I be to blame? Absolutely. But it wasn't getting better to begin with. So you got to take a different road every once in a while. You might as well vote Republican just to see what happens and see if they'll clean it up. It's going to be a battle for that guy because he's probably going to have a Democrat-ran legislature, but, that goes on for a whole nother video. Let me know what you think about that in the comment section below. For those on audio, there was literally ice cream, ketchup, mustard. What else did we see in the video? Pancake syrup locked behind plexiglass coffee? That's what they're stealing, folks. That's what they're stealing. Well, moving into some other news here. We got immigration news, folks, and Mayorkas is it's beyond quadrupling down. I don't know how many times this guy has said it, but Mayorkas says border is not open after record number of illegal crossings under Biden. I mean, we've seen this from Joe Biden himself. We've seen it from Kamala Harris. We've seen it from DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. We've seen it from Karine Jean-Pierre. I mean, remember when Karine Jean-Pierre looked at Peter Doocy and said that there wasn't illegal immigrants walking across the border? I mean, this is where we are at here. So they're going to say the border is not open, even though, and I've said this time and time again here on the show, Joe Biden is the only president in American history. There is nobody closer to Joe Biden than Joe Biden himself, because he keeps breaking the record on illegal immigration happening month after month. Joe Biden has had more illegal immigrants pour into the country than any other sitting president has ever had in the history of our country. With that being said, Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas appeared before the House Judiciary Committee on Wednesday and said that the border was not open, even as Biden administration has struggled to stem a surge of illegal crossings. And if you recall, the DOJ and the Biden administration is going after Greg Abbott of Texas for the razor wire that immigrants are trying to crawl or push their way through, and then they're complaining about it. And in some cases, rightfully so, because you just got cut with razor wire. But it's kind of that logic of, well, you see a fire happening, you probably shouldn't put your hand in the fire because you're going to get burned. When you see razor wire, you're probably going to get cut. But see, that's not the person's fault that's sticking their hand into the fire. That's somebody else's fault. And that somebody else's fault is Greg Abbott, with it's a Republican. It's not Joe Biden's fault for having basically open borders, and then his DHS secretary coming out and saying, well, border's not open, which we all know it's just wide open. Furthermore, what is crazy about this whole thing is that he also put in, meaning he, Greg Abbott, put in these buoys that weren't razor wire to help curb this whole thing, because his state is getting shellacked on thousands upon thousands, I guess millions upon millions at this point, of illegal aliens pouring into their state and just ruining their budget. New York City right now is begging, and that was the headline, begging. What if we have it up here? Yeah, we will. We'll cover it. New York City penned a letter to Biden asking them for money because of the illegal immigrants that are pouring into their state, because you have Greg Abbott, Doug Ducey of Arizona, and Ron DeSantis of Florida busing these migrants to the cities, these sanctuary cities. Well, they have the DOJ going after the state of Texas for these buoys. And saying, oh, well, it's breaking the law because of, some sort of international traffic or something. People can't get through or something. Well, they did the same thing, you guys, when Doug Ducey and Greg Abbott, one of them, tried to build a makeshift border wall in the desert. And the Biden administration had the EPA come out and say, hey, you got to remove this thing. It's not environmentally friendly. You can't make this up. So Mayorkas defended the administration's policies during the hearing as he was grilled by Republicans about the state of the border. Since President Biden took office, illegal immigrants have crossed the U.S. in record numbers, crossing an estimate that exceeds 5 million people, folks. It hasn't even been 4 years yet. 5 million people. Presently, there's somewhere around 22 to 30 million illegal aliens in this country. And if you think that we're going to sit there and fly all of them out and bust them out of this country, that's out of the cards, you guys. I can understand that idea if you are a Republican. I'm a registered Republican, but I am a conservative. But I'm a fiscal conservative. There is a difference. Fiscally, it is not responsible, financially as well, both, to remove 25 to 30 million people in this country. Can it be done? Absolutely. Do we have the money for it? No. We're over $30 trillion in debt. What will probably happen, and the way I would go about this, if I was a Republican or conservative, or Democrat for that matter, is solve it by building the border wall, increasing border security with that border wall, the technology there and everything. You got to like double the border patrol agents down there. It's going to cost a lot of money, but it's going to save us money in the long run because we spend about $1 trillion every 4 years on this thing. Once you have the border wall built in its entirety, everything's there, everything's ready to go, then you move out a PR messaging in continuation of why you're building the border wall, saying, hey, the border's not open. You need to come here legally. These are the mechanisms and policies that we've have in place that we've revamped to where you could start your asylum papers or whatever it may be on your way here. You know, we could figure that part out. After that's done, then we start talking amnesty. And I'm not saying amnesty for all 25 million plus people. They could start the paperwork while they are there, and we can siphon through it and see how they've been a net benefit to this country. How have you assimilated to our country? What have you done? Because there's some people, folks, that have been here for like 30 years. You know, they sat there, they worked, and all those other things. So I don't think everybody should be removed, but there's a lot of violent gang members that are here that shouldn't be. There's drug cartel that are here. There's people here that shouldn't be here. And so I think we can handle it and tackle it that way. I'm curious on what you think about that proposal that I just came up with. I've talked about it in the past. I think it's the right way to go. It mimics a lot of what even other Republicans think about that as well. That echoes kind of like Ben Shapiro, Dan Bongino, and others. And hopefully I'm not misquoting Dan Bongino in any way, shape, or form. But you have Jerry Nadler here talking to the secretary, asking, hey, is the border open? And well, here's Alejandro Mayorkas's response to this whole thing.
Is the border open, Mrs. Secretary? No, it is not. Is the border open, Mrs. Secretary? No, it is not.
Okay. I just don't believe anything that comes out of Nadler's mouth. I think he's one of those corrupt politicians that's been in government way too long. But he also faced questions from other people like Tom McClintock, a Republican from California, asking, you've already released more than 2.1 million illegal immigrants into this country since you took office. That's the population of the size of the state of Nebraska. And we've talked about that a lot here. There's more illegal aliens here than you can actually move that in almost half the country in terms of double digits. If you kind of move the population around, that's a massive issue in terms of voting. And we've said time and time again, if we were to go down the amnesty route, Democrats are banking on giving them amnesty so that they would vote because they tend to vote Democrat in that first round and kind of the subsequent rounds as well. So massive issue here. They're going to continue to peddle this lie, which I know is a theme that we see from this administration time and time again. We're getting that not just from the head, meaning Joe Biden, but we get it from Kamala Harris and most notably Karine Jean-Pierre. The reason why I haven't covered the last 3 press briefings, because there was one Monday, there was one Tuesday, then there was one Wednesday as well. She didn't answer any questions. It was actually quite remarkable. She was asked numerous amounts of times about Hunter Biden. And we'll get to that in just one moment because I'll show you just one clip. But even in yesterday's White House press briefing, she was hounded on it once again. She's like, I'm just not going to comment on it. I'm not going to comment about this. I mean, the amount of time she said, I'm not going to comment on even other questions was wild. And it almost felt like the press was just going to give up. But we'll get there in just one moment. In connection to this illegal immigration, you have New York City Democrats, 50 of them, over 50 for that matter, penning a letter to Biden begging for him to help with the migrant crisis. So you boast for years and years that you're a sanctuary city. You called Trump a racist and all these names. And now when you're getting your way of you saying, hey, look at us, we're a sanctuary city, we'll house all these people, and we give you what you wanted, now you're complaining about it. And you're not even getting a fraction of what Arizona and Texas is seeing. Dozens of New York City Democrats penned a letter to President Biden this week, pleading for him to help with New York's migrant crisis, which has quickly spiraled out of control. This was the game plan all along. We knew it would happen. New York does not have the infrastructure for this, even though they're a city of millions and millions of people. You send less than 30,000 illegal aliens to their state, they crumble. I think it hit about 11 to 16,000, somewhere in that range. And the mayor, Eric Adams of New York, was completely baffled. He didn't know what to do, so much so that he was asking New York City residents to house illegal aliens. And then he built a makeshift encampment for these migrants, and we covered this here. This was one of the videos that actually got removed off YouTube, where the encampment had plasma TVs, Xboxes, full phone services, full laundry services, bedding, clothing, air conditioning, 3-course meal that was catered to their ethnicity, basically, wherever they're from. It was a revolving menu, full buffet. They were continually adding more and more stuff to it. I don't even know where it was at or where it's at now in terms of the more services that they offered. They had full-on couches, they had rugs, they had coffee tables. I mean, I'm just trying to pull this out of memory of what we saw. So New York's offering all these things, and now, again, they're pleading because they just can't handle it. 54 Democrat lawmakers from across the Big Apple signed a letter on Wednesday asking the White House to provide relief for one of the most significant humanitarian crises New York City has ever faced. Folks, that is wording coming from Democrats. It's not wording coming from Republicans. That tells you where that state's at right now. The letter asks Biden to declare a federal state of emergency on the flood of migrants streaming into New York City, as well as expedite work authorization for migrants. Come up with an asylum, or rather, forgive me, come up with a system to fairly distribute the migrants coming over the border and give New York more money to deal with this crisis. What's interesting here is the Biden administration's going to have to eat their own words because they will not call it a crisis. And this goes all the way back to Jen Psaki's time, where she was just saying, well, it's just an issue. It's a challenge was the specific word they used. It actually went from challenge to downgrading it to an issue. At no point did they ever say this was a crisis. So they would have to eat their own words that they've been saying and the message that they've been peddling for over 2 years. That ain't going to happen. Quote, we are elected officials from New York City requesting your help. Our city is experiencing an unprecedented migrant influx with a surge of asylum seekers arriving here in numbers never seen before in history. Didn't I mention that? Because Joe Biden is the only president to ever see these types of numbers. He's shattering records, and now shattering state records as well, it seems like. We take pride in New York City being a beacon of hope for migrants. Can you imagine this messaging? But the influx of immigrants is so great that the city is running out of resources. But you're getting what you wanted. That's what I don't understand, is that you want to label yourself a sanctuary city. So we send you immigrants because you're a sanctuary city. And by the way, they chose to get on that bus and go to that city. In their language, it was fully explained. Nobody forced them. I think there was even an investigation on it, and they wound up finding nothing because the people chose to go there. And rightfully so. If somebody told me, hey, we're a sanctuary city, nothing's going to happen to you. We're not even going to allow ICE to look into you. Just come here and we'll take care of you. And then it turns out that they didn't. I mean, I would go there because that's what the messaging is. You're telling me it's a place of hope. It's a beacon of hope, like they said themselves. Well, doesn't look like that's to be the case. The letter was drafted by State Assembly woman, can't even pronounce her name, a Democrat from Queens. Check this out. Since April of last year, more than 90,000 migrants have arrived in New York City. As of this month, about 55,000 are still being housed on the city's dime, causing New Yorkers and New York's homeless shelters to burst at the seams. Combined with the city's large homeless population, the city is now sheltering a record 105,000 people. It's basically 106,000. If you recall, we did cover a story where it's gotten so bad in New York that New York City was actually kicking out our veterans that served in Iraq and Afghanistan, I believe, out of these shelters, out of these hotels to house migrants. Look, even if you're for this type of immigration happening, my question for you is, why does somebody that's seeking asylum have the right to that room over somebody that took the time to sign up for the military and fight for your rights and freedoms in war, in battle? Why does that person get kicked out over somebody that's never served this country, is here illegally? That's just my question. That's what I don't understand. So what's happening? You could say it's not, but it is. I'm not saying you as the viewer, but there are some Democrats who are saying that's not happening. It is happening. We report. I mean, your own left outlets are reporting on it. That's what we're just reading. We're just reading what the left is saying, and I'm just bringing it to you guys and just saying, well, this doesn't make sense to me. And I know it doesn't make sense to any of you, but it's still news. They can't even handle freaking 90,000. Folks, Texas itself was seeing 6 to 10,000 a day. A day. So 9 days in Texas. This was April of last year. It's been about a year and a half. A year and a half. They can't handle it. But they expect Texas to deal with this every 9 days. That just shows you how well ran Texas is as a whole, as well as Arizona and Florida, is because they're able to handle this type of stuff. Well, we just got done in our first episode talking about what's going on in San Francisco with the crime being riddled. I mean, LA County has a quarter of the homeless population in one county. The state of California beats out anybody bar none. Well, it's costing New York City about $1.2 billion. Again, it's costing us, the taxpayer, anywhere from, I'll lowball it for you guys. I'll lowball it, $120 billion a year. That is me being extremely generous on what we're spending. $120 billion with a B every single year. Folks, you could build a border wall for $120 billion and stop this problem. I'm not saying that Democrats don't have a conversation starter of immigration reform. I think even Republicans agree with that our immigration system is not very good. There needs to be a lot of reform. But you have to have a starting point, and they're so hell-bent on not building a border wall that it's just never going to come to it. So we'll have to see what happens with it. Let me know what you think. If you have any comments or suggestions on policies, I would love to hear from you. That's how we learn from one another. I'm not saying I have the answer. I've just brought up an awareness to it, but I'm curious to see what you have to think about it, or say about it, rather. So Karine Jean-Pierre gets hammered over Hunter Biden plea deal falling apart. So this is actually from a couple days ago. And forgive me, I have been in trainings with work and stuff like that, so it's been difficult to kind of prepare, but I've been kind of watching my eye on some news headlines and listening to the White House press briefing. Sitting through it, yes, I sit through every single one, folks, and listen to her just dodge questions. Every single one. Well, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre attempted to head off questions about Hunter Biden, saying early during a press conference on Wednesday that Hunter Biden is a private citizen and this was a personal matter for him. Well, as we have said, the president, the first lady, they love their son and they support him as he continues to rebuild his life. You guys, verbatim, she echoed that same exact sentence during yesterday's White House press briefing. This is not from yesterday's White House briefing. This one is from Wednesday.
Have you seen the president since Hunter Biden showed up in federal court, since the deal fell apart? Did he have any reaction that he has agreed to allow you to share with us?
So I'll tell you this, and I'll repeat this as what I said at the top, which is the president loves his son. The president and the first lady love their son, and they support him as he's rebuilding his life and trying to move forward. I have not spoken to the president today. He has been busy continuing to work on behalf of the American people, as he does every day with internal meetings, and so I will leave it there.
So it's just, we don't get anything from this administration. And if it was the Trump administration or any sort of Republican administration, you guys know how it would go. It'd be on news coverage left and right. Everybody would be losing their crap over it. Oh, he's not answering questions. I mean, they did kind of do the same thing with Trump a little bit by saying he wasn't being transparent. I mean, you guys are here all the time with me. We cover it. She's not transparent whatsoever. And through yesterday's White House press briefing, honestly, it looked like the press were tired. I gotta say, the press, I was not impressed by the press during yesterday's White House press briefing. I love the people in the room. I think they are trying. But when you sit there every single day for years, and you know what you're gonna get when you walk in. Oh, well, I'm just not going to comment. You got to talk to the DOJ. You got to talk to the White House counsel. I can't comment because of the Hatch Act. Like, why? I mean, you guys have said it for years as well as I have. Like, why even have a press briefing? Like, why even have a White House press secretary? I don't get it. So what I want to try to do on my end, and not that I'm going to reveal anything, I don't know if I'm lacking something, how these press briefings are ran. I don't know if there's bad blood between these reporters. I want to find out more information of, why are they not banding together on this? Because they're all getting screwed, right? They're all getting shafted at the end of the day. It's not like she's just choosing to screw over Fox News or Real Clear Politics or Fox Business or whatever it is for that of CNN or MSNBC and ABC and these other more predominantly left-wing outlets. She's just doing it to everybody. I mean, Simon, the guy that reports on Africa, hasn't got a question in folks, almost a year. That is, I know it sounds like I'm exaggerating that. Like, oh, well, the guy hasn't got a question in like 4 years. He's been going on, I think, he's somewhere between 10 and 12 months of not getting a question in. Even when the president's dealing with things in Africa, she will not take his question. It is wild. And she gets away with it. Just 100% gets away with it. So she dodged more questions. There was another report that later brought up gun-related issues that Hunter Biden faced and asked what the president's views were on that matter. Just listen to the response. So President Biden has spent most of his political career working on gun laws, on gun reform. Does he believe that someone who is charged with possessing a firearm illegally should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law? Great question, because it's showing that there's possibly hypocrisy coming from the president. Well, here's the response. So here, I'm going to be, I think I know where this question is going. I bet you she was going to say, I'm going to be completely clear. I'm going to be transparent. I'm sure that's what she was going to say, but she cut herself off. And I'm just going to continue to say, as it relates to this, the case that we're seeing in Delaware, I'm just not going to speak to that. I told you guys, that is the messaging, and it's going to continue to be the messaging on everything. There's a lot of hypocrisy that's taking place here from the Biden administration, but rather than hearing it from my mouth, I want you to hear it from the horse's mouth.
A firearm illegally should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
So here, I'm going to be, I think I know where this question is going, and I'm just going to continue to say, as it relates to the case that we're seeing in Delaware, I'm just going to not speak to that.
A firearm.
So if you're listening to audio, folks, she was glancing down at her binder to get that response. There's another one here. The president has previously said that he has never discussed overseas business dealings with his son, but the White House now says that the president has never been in business with his son. Why the language update? So we're going to hear her response and the question itself. Just give me a moment to let this stuff load, folks. We're trying to do our best here.
Nothing has changed when you were asked about the president's previous remarks on his son's business dealings, but the language has in fact changed. So I just want to clear this up once and for all. The president has previously said that he has never discussed overseas business dealings with his son, but the White House now says that the president has never been in business with his son. So why the updated language? Which statement is true? Or is this semantics and they're both true?
As I stated on Monday, when I was asked this question multiple times, nothing has changed. Nothing has changed on this. Nothing has changed on this. And so could ask me a million different ways on this question. Nothing has changed.
Months ago, you said.
But he phrased it, and I think that was Phil Wegman of Real Clear Politics, who we love here on the Bald Brad Show. He asked it in a way that was very strategic, and we know that Phil does this type of questioning where it leaves an avenue with no doors left open. You only have a few options to choose from because those few options cover all ranges of his question. So if you're going to say nothing has changed, and you heard him there going, well, does that mean both? Like, if the messaging hasn't changed, even though it has, then that would, are we assuming that it's both? But you know, the reporters aren't supposed to assume things. That's the problem here, is that she's leaving assumptions out there. And I understand the press assumed a lot of things under Trump. And if there's a Democrat listening to this or a left, they might go, oh, what do you mean? Well, you guys assume that Donald Trump had massive health issues because when he was drinking a glass of water, his hand was shaking. You also said the same thing when he slid down a slippery slope, down a ramp, that he might not be fit to be presidency or fit to be president, and that we should declare the 25th Amendment. I mean, it's happened time and time again. You did the same thing when you saw him eating McDonald's, which he's done forever. There's been so many cases where Trump has been attacked, or narrative has been fabricated and attacked on by the media that just completely make things up. So the messaging has changed. And Ben Shapiro did a great piece on this where he was talking, remember, Ben Shapiro's a lawyer. He was talking about, and I'm probably going to butcher this, he was talking about the reason for the language change is because Joe Biden says that he didn't know anything in Hunter Biden's business dealings or whatever it was. Well, when somebody does business with their family member, you might be married to your wife and you guys exchange money and transactions all the time because you probably share a debit card or you share a bank account, meaning that you're receiving money, you're putting in that bank account, she's receiving money, putting in that bank account, he or she, however you do your relationships, you understand. And so there is some sort of business happening there. And that's the reason why they changed the language to being the new updated language, that he's been doing business dealings with his son or whatever it was, to be specific. So that's why the language changed. They're getting caught with their pants down, and there's something going on. We've said this time and time again. We went through the entire timeline here on the Bald Brad Show. We spent about an hour doing it, going through 2010 all the way to modern day of Burisma Holdings, Hunter Biden's business partner, Joe Biden being the big man, Joe Biden being called the chief, other business partners calling him out. I mean, we went over it in detail here on the Bald Brad Show. I highly recommend you check that episode out if you haven't. It's a good one. It's long, but it's good and it covers a lot of stuff. But there is a lot of things going on here with the Biden family and Joe Biden himself. Well, speaking of things going on with Joe Biden, something went on with Mitch McConnell that was very similar to what we've seen from Joe Biden. And I don't think it's fair that we cover this. Because just because I hound Joe Biden and the Democrats all the time, we got to hound the Republicans whenever something goes on as well. Mitch McConnell freezes up during a press conference, and I saw this kind of swiping through my phone. And I honestly, I want to know what you guys think about this, because it was weird. I mean, his face and everything was just so weird. Go ahead and roll it.
Cooperation and a string of
I mean, I don't know what's going on. There's a thing going on too, because the lady in pink, he does not acknowledge her whatsoever. And then after she's talking to him, another gentleman walks up on McConnell's right and he's acknowledging that, but it looks like he's holding on the podium for dear life. His eyes are all big-eyed. I mean, something happened.
Do you want to say anything else to the press?
Go ahead, John.
Let's go back to you.
Go ahead, John.
I mean, he's holding on to arm rails.
bipartisan cooperation.
And he made a joke about it. He ended up coming back and making a joke about the whole thing. Let me see if I can find it for you here. I'm trying to find out exactly what he said. He took a shot at Joe Biden. He said, the president called to check on me. McConnell said, I told him I got sandbagged. Got to watch those sandbags. So, I mean, for a politician, that is a very, very clean and smooth comeback. That is very funny. But there's a bigger issue here of these career politicians that are in place that, quite frankly, I think are ruining this country. Mitch McConnell's done some good things, but he's also done some bad things. And you see these people. I mean, folks, let's see if we can find it. Let's see if we can go back here. I want to go to this guy's face. You guys, does that look, honestly, does that look healthy? If we're going to hound Joe Biden for his cognitive abilities, him fumbling with the teleprompter, fighting through his words, not knowing his wife's name, not even knowing his own name, like all those things I've ever said, like Mitch here, something's not good. He clearly something's going on here, and he did have a concussion before. I think there's other matters going on. There's other people that can do this job and maybe even do it better. And I've said time and time again, why don't we implement term limits? I understand that can bite us in the butt some way, shape, or form. And what I mean by that is you could have somebody say like Ted Cruz, that's a great senator. You can have other people like Trey Gowdy, Jason Chaffetz, whoever it may be, guys that I highly trusted that aren't in Congress anymore because they left because they saw how corrupt it was. But when you have somebody that's good, that's really, really good, that actually represents the people and is the people's voice and doing what they're supposed to be doing, those are the people that you don't want to see go because of term limits. But in the broader scope of things, this is what happens when you don't have term limits. You get people like Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, AOC, Ilhan Omar, Mitch McConnell, even though he's done some good things, Dianne Feinstein. There was video of her sitting in a wheelchair and she was having to be told verbatim what to do and say. In the same way we've seen from Joe Biden being told verbatim what to do and say. Oh, we've seen his cue cards. We've seen the cards. I mean, it's not uncommon for a president to have those. But for every time to be told where to sit, where to stand, he gets lost on the stage all the time. I mean, can we get away from these old politicians? Can we find some younger people at some point here, for the love of baby, for everybody, Democrats or Republicans. Again, as I always say, I'm curious to know what you guys think. I don't just say that because, yes, YouTube wants to see us interacting, but I've always said one of the main functions of the show, one of them, but many, is to see where my viewpoints kind of align with other Americans. There are some people that are independent. There's some people, honestly, that are Democrats that we found out watch the show. But also a lot of you are Republicans. That's what we're building here, is a community of conservatives and Republicans, like-minded people. But like-mindedness doesn't always mean that you agree with me, and I know that. I know that you don't agree with me. Some of you vocalize that in the comments, which is great. I don't expect you to agree with everything that I say. We come here because we're a community, we're friends, we get along, hopefully, and we just have a good time together, and that's what it's supposed to be about. And that's why I want to change the tone of the show, is to bring it back to what it was supposed to be about, where this was a show that I wanted to create that was long form. One video, hour long, 45 minutes to an hour, where it's just me talking to you, going back and forth, some banter here and there when we do lives or when we just upload, cover the news, and just kind of give you my take a little bit, but not really go after one side as hard as I was going after them. Also, too, I have a job. I don't want to lose my job. People get upset because of some sort of rhetoric. And when they see that entertainment from me, when they see me going, Kareem's an idiot, how could you not do that? How could you not answer? When they see that, that's all they see. They think that I'm that person in real life. And again, those viewpoints of what I said, I don't change those viewpoints. But when I'm having a conversation with somebody, I'm not going like this, right? That would be silly to be having all those animated conversations and, oh, you idiot. Like, I wouldn't call somebody an idiot necessarily to their face. But I think you understand what I mean, is I wanted to kind of revert back to what the true intention was supposed to be. The true intention was for me to have a conversation with a community, a conversation with like-minded people that are patriots that love this country, and have more of a conversation of, why are Democrats doing that? Why are Republicans doing that? Rather than yelling into the mic. That doesn't do anything. You know what I mean? If anything, it probably just pisses you off more because you see somebody that's just as frustrated as you are, and we're all trying to have a cup of coffee in the morning together whenever this is being uploaded, and just starting our day off pissed. And rather than starting our day off pissed, as much as it's going to happen regardless because of the news, but I want to have just more of a discussion and cover the news and give commentary without yelling and doing all this stuff. Slow it down a bit, and just come at it from that angle. And try to fix a little bit of the rhetoric and tone of the show, so maybe that we can grab a hold of some Democrats. Maybe we could change some viewpoints and see, like, oh, not all these Republicans are crazy. This Republican guy doesn't hate me, and all those other things. Again, part of it, there's many facets, many variables as to why I want to change the tone of the show. And also, we want to be able to do this, invite guests onto the show like we had with Arthur Quan Lee like a year and a half ago. And I want the image that we have here to carry over to other people's podcasts, because now we're getting requests from other people to have me on their stuff. So there's a lot of reasons for that, and I hope you guys understand that and navigate this realm of YouTube. As much as we've been on here for 2 years, it's still navigating it. We're still trying to find who we are here on the show. We're trying to find that tone. We're trying to find that image. Somebody messaged me and I love you. Thank you so much. I forgot your name, but you go, hey, when are you going to take off the cap? I mean, I am bald. I really am. But it's part of the image. You can clearly tell automatically with the brand, the bald brand. Oh, I'm pointing over here. Ooh. There's a microphone, First Amendment, the gun, the Second Amendment, it's an eagle, American, a patriot, the American flag. Like, there's essence that we can bring about just by image alone that shows, this guy cares about this country. This guy loves his country. This guy loves his countrymen. So I think I've ranted on long enough, but you're going to slowly see the show kind of form and change a little bit to where you're not going to see me yell. You're not going to see me, losing my bleep. I'm going to try to be more, I think, respectful to the other side of the aisle. The left, the far left, that ain't going to happen. I'm sorry. I'm not going to be respectful to the far left. They destroyed this country from the inside out. I mean, not to plug the book, but I wrote an entire book on it because I firmly do believe the left, those that are further than the Democrat Party, are destroying this country from the inside out. Pockets of the Democrat Party has absorbed pockets of the left. I firmly do believe that. They came out of somewhere, right? But it is primarily the left that is destroying this country. The Democrats in pockets are doing that as well. You see that in San Francisco, Portland, Oregon, Chicago. Like, you see it in areas. But I think my viewpoint, my point has come across enough there. Support the show by hitting that like and subscribe button. Leave us a comment down below. I would love to know anything that I covered here on the Bald Brad Show, your thoughts about it. I read every comment. Folks, I do heart it. Even if I don't heart it, I've read it. But if you see me heart it, that means I've read it. Not only read it, some of you guys leave your thoughts in there to actually like think about it. I go, oh, that's an interesting take. I haven't heard that before. I learn from all of you. That's the purpose of the community. That's the purpose of the show. And we're going to slowly try to morph and change it into still being political commentary, still being what it was. But just kind of toning down, I think, the rhetoric, again, for the sake of my job and my career and still progressing the show and all those other things. So thank you so much for your kindness, your love, and your support. We're also going to probably move to 6 a.m. at Pacific Standard Time. Since I'm going back to work, we're probably going to move back to the morning show now that summer's over. I'm going to leave probably a, what do you call those? A poll up to kind of see what time works best, 6 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m., stuff like that. See what the community wants. At the end of the day, it's probably going to be 6 a.m. because nobody wants the early time slot. You know, all those big YouTubers, those podcasts, they don't want the big time slot. I'll take it. I'll be that morning show for you. But again, I love you guys to death. We do have we have one of the best communities. As small as we are, we have one of the best communities here on YouTube, and I firmly believe that. You will hear me say that even off camera. I got an awesome community. I got some of the best subscribers. I got some of the best regulars, best members here on YouTube. Love you guys to death. Always seeing you. Always looking out for you. And I'll see you later here on the Boat Ride.